It's great to see space. And welcome to our first 2023. I'm so pleased to be joining the Transportation Committee. It's near and dear to my heart. So thank you so much. As always, let's start with the pledge, and hopefully we've got a great graphic to show you that. We'll join you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Or no, let's get our hand right there.
Thank you all.
Right, if we had the veterans headgear.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and we will start off. Lynette, if you would start with roll call, please.
Yes, thank you. And just before I start that, just a reminder for our newer members, we're again happy to have you here. If you could please mute your device when you're not speaking, that'll make sure that we don't have any background noise coming into the meeting. So I'll go ahead and get started with roll call. Director Branscombe.
Yes, ma'am, here.
Chapman.
Here.
Gog.
Yes.
Alternate early for Guerrero is absent. Jennings.
Here.
Joyner.
Here.
Lauren.
Here.
Sander.
Here.
Vice Chair Desmond. Absent. Vice Chair Soon.
Here.
Chair Gallardo.
Here.
And ex officio member Benny Paul.
Present.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think I only see a couple new faces, but just for the benefit of everybody, I know walking in how hard it is to figure out who everybody is. Probably in the same order we did roll call. Could everybody take just 15 seconds and introduce themselves, where they're from, and tell us something about you that will make everybody remember who they are. So I think we started with Director Branscombe, if we could.
Thank you. I'm here in Marysville, California, where I am the mayor until I get thrown out of office. And, let's see, I grew up here, left in 76, came back in 2018, and saw things needed to be done, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Director Chapman.
Good morning, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be part of the SACOG board and part of this subcommittee. My name is Josh Chapman. I'm the vice mayor of the city of Davis. And something about me, for my day job, I own a record store in downtown Davis.
Very cool. I think we'll be.
And Director Chapman will be providing any walk-up music that any of you would like for future committee meetings.
Director
Will it be
Chapman,
on vinyl?
if you had a walk-up song, what would your
Only
walk-up song
vinyl.
be? Awesome. Let's see, Director Gog.
Good morning. My name is Lakbir Gag. I've been resident of Live Oak for 52 years. I've been on the city council for 11 years, been two-time mayor. I do real estate part-time, and I am a full-time farmer. I do peaches, prunes, walnuts, and kiwi fruit. And the rest of the time that I have, I spend with my loving wife, Emergy. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Director Jennings.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rick Jennings, and I am a council member in the city of Sacramento. I'm in my 9th year. I served 12 years on the school board as well. In my spare time, I am in love with running my nonprofit organization, the Center for Fathers and Families.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Director Joyner.
My name is Paul Joyner. I'm the mayor of the city of Lincoln, served on the council for 15 years now. This is my 4th term as mayor. I'm just wondering what this spare time thing is that Rick Jennings was talking about. I'm not sure what that is, Rick. It's we've got Lincoln is this unique city that ebbs and flows, and the last recession caused everything to stall a bit. We are back riding high right now, doing really well, and having a lot of fun planning the growth of a city. So I don't have that spare time. I'm out trying to work and get art in public places, get some of our older venues up and restored and going, and just having a lot of fun doing that.
That is awesome. And if anyone drives out to Lincoln and you cruise down that main street of Joyner Parkway, you'll know how cool Director Joyner is.
And Jennings.
Director Lauren.
Hi, very happy to be here. My name is Jessie Lauren, and I'm from the beautiful city of Winters. It's a destination town, a rural town, an ag town. I've been here 26 years, almost 27. I'm originally from Southern California, UC Irvine, and so forth. When I'm not doing all my duties for the city of Winters, I run two nonprofits, Winters Community Corazon, which serves the Latino community, and also Winters Open Mic, which brings open mic performance to Winters. And I work for YOLO Food Bank. Very familiar with SB 1383, if anyone has any questions on that one. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to getting to sit down with you and explaining how you got to Winters from SoCal. That's a little different group.
There'll have to be adult beverages involved in that conversation, maybe.
Thank you. Was Director Sander here? Did I see you on there?
I do know he's driving, so we want to be careful.
Okay. Hey.
Or maybe he'll come off mute. There he is.
There we go. I had to find unmute, which was not easy. I'm in a rental car, so it's even harder.
Oh.
So I'm David Sander. I am Vice Mayor of Rancho Cordova this year. I've been on the council for 20 years, hard to believe, since we became a city. Unusual things about me, other than being a council member, I'm a virologist. So I was, I think, the only elected official who was a virologist during the pandemic, maybe in the world. I'm not sure. There aren't that many virologists to begin with. Although I guess the joke now is everybody's a virologist, right? It's not that unique anymore. The other unique thing about me is I coach throwing, like in track and field throwing. So shot put, discus, javelin, hammer, and we have a booming Rancho Cordova track club that is a lot of fun and takes up some of my spare time, Mr. Joyner, wherever I manage to find it.
I think that could be entertaining with the gavel in some of your meetings. I'm going to have to
throw things. Yes.
That's a necessary skill on occasion. Well, thank you. Was Vice Chair Desmond, are you?
I don't think you'll be able to join us this morning, Jorgel.
Okay. I was thinking he wasn't there. Well, hey, move on to the next best Vice Chair, Suen.
Thank you, Chair Gallardo. Darren Soon, 9th year on the City Council in Elk Grove, just finished Vice Mayor last year. I think it's been about 7 years on this board. I'm a civil engineer by education and background, spent over about 11 or 12 years working in land development and transportation. So starting down in Irvine, Director Lawrence, so look forward to catching up with you about good old days in Irvine, and also partly with Caltrans in Director Amarjeet's area, District 3. So, and then a lot of you may know me, my day job is working in flood now for the last 10 years, work for the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. So I touch a lot of the communities, the representatives on here, especially Marysville, Director Branscombe, and many others in the Central Valley. So nice to see everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. Ex officio Benepal.
Good morning, everyone. I've been in this assignment since 2014, so it's about 8 years plus some. Enjoying my time with the SACOG and your committees and boards. And so when I have a spare time, then I do have a responsibility to deliver a project in other 16 county outside the SACOG region, which I have a responsibility for. So it's always good to actually see and especially with the virtual world, it does give us an opportunity to connect, but at the same time, we do time to time miss the opportunity to actually have some sidebar conversation, which does take place when we are present in person. So look forward to seeing you while we actually have the board meeting, which is going to be in person. So looking forward to those sidebars and trying to advance our common goals, trying to provide service to our constituency, which is what we exist and trying to do every single day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you're right, we're not seeing each other in person, but at least hopefully this helps. I learned some things about folks that I already knew, so I learned a little bit more today. I'm Jill Gallardo. I am on the City of Rockland Council, starting my 7th year on council, and retired director of transportation. I had 30 years in school transportation, so I bleed yellow. And proud to say that my last, I think, 14 years were with Elk Grove Unified, which I can tell Vice Chair Suen is one of the finest school districts that you could ask for, serving about 1/3 of Sacramento County. And I'm so excited to be, we've worked a lot with alternative fuels. I did propane. We did the first 12 electric school buses in the county. Compressed natural gas, every particulate trap and filter known to mankind. We've tried it all. So I'm excited to be on transportation, and welcome to all our new folks. All right, well, let's get started with our consent calendar. Let's see here. All right, we've got our
Chair Gallardo, this is Lynette, just letting you know, for the public communications portion, I do not see any public communications. Just wanted to let you know. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No public comment on any items not on the agenda with no public present. So now we'll move on with our consent calendar. Item 1 is our remote committee meeting. And I don't know if anybody needs any item on the consent calendar anyone wants to pull for discussion.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Branscombe seconds.
Thank you. Lynette, you got that? Director Gog and Director Branscombe?
Yes, I have that. Shall I go ahead and do the roll call vote?
Thank you. Please.
Thank you. Director Branscombe?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Gog?
Yes.
Early for Guerrero is absent. Jennings?
Yes.
Joyner?
Yes.
Lauren?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Vice Chair Desmond is absent. Vice Chair Suen?
Aye.
And Chair Gallardo?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on to our first action item, and Christina will be presenting on the Transportation Committee charge.
Hi, good morning. Thanks everyone for being here. It's great to see everyone. It's going to be a fun year. The first action item today for you is to adopt the committee's charge. This charge provides a framework for the issues that the committee will be addressing over the course of the year. We've got some activities and topics listed in there that are reflective of what's been included in SACOG's overall work program and identified priorities. And based on these priorities, we anticipate some key focus areas like continued implementation of the next generation transit strategies, including ongoing work related to the Regional Transit Network Plan and an upcoming study for mobility hubs. Oversight of the regional funding program, which we'll be working on together throughout the year, closely with the board and partner agencies. So there's the current funding round that we'll be awarding in the coming months, but also the development of the next funding round. Our recently awarded RAISE grant funded mobility zones project, which we anticipate to kick off in the next few months. Continued development of a regional grant strategy and project prioritization with the goal here of ensuring our region continues to be as competitive as possible for state and federal grants. And continued collaboration with partners across the region on major infrastructure and planning projects. So in the charge, you'll see for clarity, I've underlined new additions to the charge from last year, and I struck out items that were deleted. And just a note on that, the deleted items are not things that SACOG is no longer managing or overseeing, but it's more reflective of internal changes where these activities will fall. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I do look forward to working with you all this year on this.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, do we have any public?
Oh, sorry, Chair Gallardo. Vice Chair Suen has his hand raised.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gallardo. Christina, thanks for that clarification. I just wanted to clarify. So the couple of things that were removed, I'm just assuming they got moved to policy and innovation, probably different.
Yeah, policy and innovation in Lunar, we did a little reshuffling of things like air quality, which typically fell under transportation, with move of some programming activities over to the planning and programming team. That will now fall just directly under Lunar.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? And I apologize, I'm having to use my phone. Laptop didn't want to connect, so I'm not seeing the hand. So Lynette will help me through if you see any. And I'm not seeing any, so I'll say, is there any public comment on this item?
So through the chair, if I may, to Lynette, Director Holdeschelt is trying to sign in, says that the meeting number is invalid. So I don't know if the public is having a hard time getting in.
He's off mute.
Hi, Director Joyner. We have 37 attendees on, so I'll just send him a note to make sure that we get that taken care of. Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you, Director Joyner, because I was having that trouble on my laptop before I jumped on the phone and it worked. I appreciate that. All right, no public comment. And if there's no further comments on this item, I'll look for a motion.
Lauren will move the item.
Jennings will second.
Thank you, Lauren and Jennings. We have a first and a second. If you could take a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Director Branscombe,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Chapman,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Early for Guerrero is absent. Jennings,
Yes.
Joyner,
Yes.
Lauren,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Vice Chair Desmond is absent. Vice Chair Soon,
Aye.
and Chair Gallardo.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, which is the unmet regional transit needs for the county. And it looks like Barbara will be our presenter.
Good morning, everybody. Barbara Von Bechtold. I'm on the transportation team at SACOG. And before you today, we have our unmet transit needs findings that will affect fiscal year 2023 and 2024. Every year, the State Transportation Development Act requires that SACOG make annual unmet transit needs findings for the Sacramento Regional Transit District and for TDA eligible jurisdictions in Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba counties. Similar processes occur in Placer County under the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency and for El Dorado County by the El Dorado County Transportation Commission. The Transportation Development Act statutes require that SACOG follow a specific process in making unmet transit needs findings for each jurisdiction, and staff has carried out this process that'll affect next fiscal year, and that's described in Attachment A in your packet. The transit service requests that are received during the unmet transit needs process were evaluated with our social service transportation advisory councils. From each county, we have a joint social service transportation advisory council for Yuba and Sutter counties, since they have only one transit provider in that area. And we call those, for sure, we call them stacks. The stacks concur with all the unmet transit needs findings recommendations that we have summarized for you in Attachment B, and we provided more details in Attachment C, D, and E, if you'd like to have extra information. And so completion of the unmet transit needs process will allow SACOG to continue apportioning TDA local transportation funds for next fiscal year. When those estimates come out, that's when our operators and jurisdictions can apply to use those funds. So completing this process will allow them to do that. So we'd like to ask that the Transportation Committee recommend to the board to first approve all the minutes of the public events and hearings that were held for unmet transit needs in Sacramento County, which includes the Sacramento Regional Transit District and all the cities therein, as well as Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba counties and the cities therein as well. And the final public hearing we held the last board meeting on January 19th. And second, adopt the attached resolutions regarding fiscal year 2023-2024 unmet transit needs in each counties, the cities therein, and the Sacramento Regional Transit District. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee on this item?
Chair Gallardo, I'm not seeing any raised hands, nor am I seeing public comment.
Thank you. All right, then we will move on if there are not any further comments. If not, I will look for a motion.
Move to approve item 2, Gog.
Thank you.
Second soon.
Thank you. Moved and approved. Would you, moved and seconded, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Chair
Yes,
Gallardo, just wondering, did we seek public comment on this item already?
Yeah, she mentioned there was no public comment, right? Thank you, right, as we did that. No problem. I appreciate all the help. When we're doing these long distance, sometimes we need a little bit of extra help.
thanks, Vice Chair Soon. I'll go ahead and take roll call. For the vote, Director Branscombe,
Yes.
Chapman,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Early for Guerrero is absent, Jennings,
Yes.
Joyner,
Yes.
Lauren,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Vice Chair Desmond is absent, Vice Chair Soon,
Aye.
and Chair Gallardo.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 8, which is our the mode shift in the funding awards. And excuse me, item 7, the corrective action, the one that I've been waiting on. We need to pay more. And Eric Johnson will be our presenter.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm just pulling up my presentation here. All right, is that looking good for everyone there? Very good. Okay, well, I'm happy to report that since we last met at the board meeting, SACOG leadership and as well as EDCTC and PCTPA met with Caltrans and FHWA. We've also shared in writing more detail on what our proposal is for resolving the corrective action. And we have unconditional support from Caltrans and FHWA to move forward with our proposal. So today I just wanted to briefly walk through the proposal again that we went through at the January board meeting. And then the recommended action today is for the committee to recommend that the full board approve this framework going forward, which we would then submit to Caltrans for concurrence with FHWA to move forward. So to recap, the final proposal would have SACOG for the first time set policy-based targets that would be utilized for every funding round going forward, starting with the 24-25 funding round. We would then do a regional call for projects that again is across all 6 counties rather than the 4 counties that's currently the process. We would form a 6-county committee at the beginning of each funding round process where we would invite technical experts to review and prioritize all projects. This is similar to what we have in our current process for the 4 counties, but it would be reviewed and expanded in terms of how exactly that's undertaken. And again, just want to reference the funding round working group that the board acted to begin at its January meeting. So there would be changes that the board would have input into all the details of this proposal through that process. The 4th component of this would be that then coming out of those technical review committees, SACOG staff would review the recommendations and make a final recommendation to the full board. And then ultimately the SACOG board would have the final ability to select projects across all 6 counties for the federal funds. So just going into the details about the policy-based targets a bit, we have Madam Chair, it looks like Director Branscombe has raised his hand. I don't know if you want to pause for a question here.
Absolutely. Director Branscombe, go ahead.
I certainly didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize. But, and forgive me, but the policy, is there and it's probably in the packet and I might have overlooked it, but if it's going to be policy-based, then that means the policies are of primary importance. Can you speak to those?
Sure, happy to do that. So this policy-based framework for the targets that I'm going to walk through here is truly that. It is a framework. And so understanding the importance of getting the policies right, our intention is that the working group over the next 18 months will really get into the details of the policies. So at a high level, one of the constraints on us is absolutely unacceptable for population or mode to be the basis for these fundings, but there's lots of other things that are important and really mean that are meaningful for kind of why we would fund certain types of transportation investments. And so those are the types of policies that we'll be talking about. What would then occur under this framework is that at the beginning of the 24-25 funding round process, we would bring specific policies for that round to the board, and the board would have a process to give feedback on those and ultimately adopt the policies that would apply at that point in time.
Thank you for that, sir. Appreciate it.
Sure. So, so the policy-based targets here, right now, funding from the federal government comes to the state of California for the surface transportation funds, as well as the congestion mitigation and air quality funds. And then that is further divided up by the federal metropolitan planning areas. And so for the SACOG region, there's funds that are, we get estimates every year. So we would take those estimates as well as what we do for every long range plan, forecast out our own estimates of what might be anticipated in future years. And we would then let the board know how much funding is available overall in any given funding round. So as example, right now we have approximately $130 million that we've estimated for the 4-county round for this funding round that's underway right now. We would apply that to this 6-county process going forward. And then as I was mentioning, the board would set performance criteria, and these would change cycle to cycle. I think we'd look for a general direction on kind of what is important, but as we receive new data, we review that and see are the investments we're making moving the needle, for instance, on the federal performance measures relative to safety, condition of the infrastructure, air quality, and other considerations. And then we would also ask the board to identify priority programs. Currently, we fund off the top either of the programs, or we actually have sometimes programs compete for funding against other transportation projects. And so moving forward, our recommendation is to, again, with each cycle, kind of determine where is there a need for an investment and set aside funding for that. Examples of this are the Spare the Air program that we currently have funded for many decades, but also things like our Engage, Empower, Implement program that was a one-time funding program in the award from the last cycle, making those policy calls to set aside funding for those things that maybe don't match up with the types of projects that local agencies are delivering. And then the final culmination of this target setting process is the targets for each county. So it would be a range based on these criteria to say that there's an amount of money that those counties and the jurisdictions and other eligible applicants could anticipate, so that they have a sense of how many projects to move through the process for applications. So I can pause on the targets here before I kind of talk about the process for actually reviewing and selecting projects. Yeah.
Any questions so far on that, on the targets?
Chair Gallardo, do you mind if I just, maybe for clarification,
Sure,
or just to jump on Eric's excellent presentation so far?
Please do.
The targets are just that, right? They're a reasonably, here's how much, and we imagine they would be in ranges, how much each county might expect based on the, as you said, Director Branscombe, sort of the importance then of what kind of criteria you choose. They are not a guarantee. And that that's just something I want to make sure we're very clear about, because there are no guarantees. It's competitive now, but there are expectations, and we understand that, as we already do in our 4-county round for funding, which is just coming up, you really need to have some sense, well, how much money is available in order to know kind of how to right size projects and applications and submissions and everything else. But the big part of this corrective action is there are no county by county or jurisdiction by jurisdiction or mode by mode guarantees. That's one of the takeaways here. The other is that the funding round working group is going to be overseeing this along with a lot of staff. We have time to figure out this new process, and the board will be heavily engaged.
Thank you for that input. do you want us to stop for questions at this point, or do you want to, would you be more comfortable finishing?
I'm happy if any directors have questions, they can interject now. But I don't see anybody moving or raising their hand, so I'll start speaking to the rest of the process, and happy to take questions as we go along as well.
Thank you.
Sure. So after those initial targets are set at the beginning of each funding round process, this is the first part of how the new process would work. So as we do now for the 4-county round, we'd have a regional call for projects that we would then set the criteria for. What are we looking for? You know, what scores will be used, or any particular things, for instance, our project performance assessment or other tools that we've utilized to assess projects. We would give all that information to sponsors at the outset, set the timeline, those sorts of things. And then we'd move into this, this new phase of the project sponsor coordination. And so as many of you who are in the 4-county process do now, SACOG reaches out in an early stage of the process to talk to sponsors about what types of projects they're considering, seeing if they have any questions, anything we can do to support them as they think through their application development. In El Dorado and Placer counties, we would look to EDCTC and PCTPA to assist with this part of the process. Since they don't sponsor projects, having them work with local agencies, as they already do now in the processes that they've run separately, we'd have a role for them in those 2 counties to ensure that those applicants get the same kind of support that SACOG has offered to applicants in the 4-county area. And then we would utilize a set of tools every funding round to try to quantify as best we can how projects compare to one another, and have that information available for part of the selection process so that the review panel has good data to use in when they're scoring their projects. And then we would prioritize lists of projects by county. Again, as James says, there's no target or there's no guarantee for any particular county in the target process, but we do want to look at projects by geography and see how do they rank before we pull things together into the full 6-county award. And then this final process before we move forward would be to have SACOG review the eligibility of projects to just ensure that they can, in fact, use the federal funds that are available in this part of the funding round. So in the prioritization process of this, again, that committee would be prioritizing projects. Then staff would review and make final recommendations out of that process. We'd bring these back to this committee with a recommendation and a chance for changes or input on the process, and then move a full recommendation forward to the board. At the conclusion of this process, similar to what we do now in the current funding round process, projects would then go through a more technical exercise of assessing what year of delivery that they'll be in, as well as if there's a specific type of funding that's a better fit for them. And so that would be part of our Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program. For the newer board members, that's the document that has a 4-year horizon where we're looking out at which projects have federal funding on them that'll be delivered. And so that's how we actually take the money from what is selected through the policy action by the board and get that in the hands of the project sponsors. So happy to answer any questions on that part of the presentation. This is the last slide here, but I'll pause before I get into this.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
I've got a quick one, Chair, if I may.
Please.
So Eric, you suggested that the local jurisdictions do not sponsor projects, but especially in Placer, 80-65 interchange, widening of 65 are not in singular jurisdictions. So maybe you could just walk me through that. PCTPA, to my knowledge, would be the sponsor of those projects.
Okay. So yeah, I think that is perhaps the exception there. And I don't think we're trying to state that there's an ineligibility there for Placer County to play that role, but I think what I was trying to emphasize is the planning role that they have, where typically it is the local agencies, whether it's Caltrans or cities or the county, that are delivering projects. And so those are, often the entities that, have gone to PCTPA to seek funding when it was a competitive round just for Placer County. But certainly for 8065 and any projects that PCTPA was sponsoring, they would be able to compete in this process with PCTPA as the lead.
All right, thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Any other questions? I have one. Would this then be nominating or recommending someone to serve on the small group, or is that by people putting their name in, or how's that process?
Sorry, for the technical review committee?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a detail that I think, we'd be interested for feedback from the working group on the funding round that's gonna start here. In the current process, staff identifies staff from other public agencies in the region and tries to ensure that there's a balance of perspectives and expertise on the review committee. So that's initially what's envisioned for how that might work, that it's not necessarily nominations from individual jurisdictions, but rather it's us putting together a staff level technical group across agencies.
So Eric, I may be mistaken here. I think Jill was actually speaking the funding round working group.
Oh, I believe that the board member nominations self-nominations.
I can, Director Joyner, Chair Kennedy is reviewing that right now because we had a number of folks who put their hand up, yourself included a while ago. See it, we saw it before. And then in the January 19th board meeting, a number of other board members put their hand up. So he's just reviewing those, and I promise you we'll get those names to you. Again, that working group will kick off soon. Christina Spence is going to be staffing that, and I think anyway, you'll be hearing very soon who's on that group, the charge, absolutely bladed this. Think of this as the guardrails, and then the working group has a lot of room to move inside those guardrails, right? Policy-based targets, criteria, how this is all going to work, like there'll be substantive work to do.
Thank you. So our chair for SACOG will be then appointing based on the folks that put their name in.
Yep, everybody who's raised their hands, and we had a lot of interest, as you might imagine, and there'll be a staff working group as well to complement the board.
Wonderful. Well, I hope there's some names from our group in there. So thank you very much.
Chair Gallardo, Vice Chair Soon has his hand raised.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Eric, and I know we've talked about this as James mentioned several times, but could you just remind me the backstory behind this corrective action? Is it just no, they don't do formula funding or?
It's always good, right? And I think just like Chair Gallardo started the good practice of the year, we've got new board members. Let's kind of reset or level set. So 30 plus years ago, we would never have had this conversation because MPOs wouldn't have had any money from the federal government. It all went to the states and stopped there and got planned through agencies like state DOTs like Caltrans. Starting in the early 1990s, federal law, beginning with ICE-T, started pushing money down to metropolitan regions. The state of California followed suit with state law in the mid-90s, pushing more state funds down to metropolitan regions. And for a while, that's what it was. And we have MOUs of Placer and El Dorado, right? So then we had a debate in 2020, as you well remember, about, could counties and cities in the 4 counties get a population-based formula? The reason this is happening and the change that's happened starting in 2012 with a bill called MAP 21 is the federal government said, all right, we've been giving a lot of money to states and metropolitan regions. We want to know what we're getting for the money we're putting in. I mean, some of it actually was driven out of stimulus and ARA in 2009. So it has become more data driven. There are now federal performance measures. They took years to sort of develop regs and guidance on this, right? So we are being asked as metropolitan regions around the country to show that we're getting bang for the buck on federal investment. And part of what the feds are saying is the way to get bang for the buck is not by dividing the money up like 100 different ways, and it's by doing a competitive process. We want to know what your competitive process is. We want to know what criteria you're using. We want to know that you're moving the needle on the federal funds. So that's basically my shortest possible version of where this is coming from. But it's good intention, which is being performance-based. I think, as you know, what we're trying to do, especially with our partners at PCTPA and EDCTC, is preserve their role, their knowledge, right? The historical process that they're really good at. So anyway, so we're trying to thread this needle, but we have to be regional, we have to be 6 county, and we have to be data driven and performance driven.
Thank you, James. That's very helpful. And I guess it begs the question for me then, in terms of, you know, in the past, they're pushing money down formulaically or whatever it was. But with this, you know, the data driven and the metrics, I guess it's incumbent upon us as a region. We've got to be more engaged now back in DC, because we have to have a voice in what those metrics and bumper rails are, right? I mean, we need to be more active in that back there, because we're being held to this now, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? I think you'll know what I say to that, which is we should absolutely be more engaged and back in DC. Going once a year is not sufficient.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So absolutely. But just to be clear about it, and I think this is something the funding round working group and the full board or the transportation committee, as much as you want to, it's probably very good to have a refresher and a reminder about there are now performance measures. I mean, this has happened over many yeand we now have federally adopted performance measures, and you've had presentations on some of them around safety. Yeah, and that's actually always a really interesting one when Sam Shelton does his kind of safety data and performance measures. And it gets even into a little bit of our disparities and equity work. And so they are set. It's not that they won't move again, or if they're not working for our region, we shouldn't be weighing in. But again, I think it's a lot of honestly, good fodder for the working group to understand it, right? To understand what we're trying to accomplish, to understand that the feds with federal transportation funding are asking us to be kind of more data driven. And of course, our response, as you know, is going to be, we have very different places and very different issues across our very diverse region, right? So it's about right sizing those performance measures, and understanding how they work for us. And then absolutely continuing the feedback loop with the feds. And that's not even talking about all the new federal grant programs, right, that are coming down that we're trying to apply for, that they're asking for our performance measures and our data on all of those to be competitive. So
yeah,
I hope that makes sense. I'm doing my best job, but
if I could add a little bit to the performance measures, James. So there's really 2 tools that the federal government gives us as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, right? We do a long range plan, and then we have these formula fundings that come to us. The performance measures that James is talking about, what we have to measure on, those are set. But what we're supposed to be doing is looking at our long range plan and seeing, like, are we making progress or are we not making progress? The money is not tied to whether we're doing well or not on those yet. That certainly is something that the federal government could change in the future. But for now, really, they're just tools for us to use to say, you know what, we're investing all this money in this type of infrastructure. It's not moving the needle on safety or the condition of pavement or other things that are, important to us, like air quality. So I think there is a presentation coming to the committee in one of the coming months on the performance measures. And so we can dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
I'm not seeing any questions, Chair Gallardo.
Okay.
So just to wrap this up, Chair Gallardo, our recommendation is to have the committee recommend the framework that's included in the packet. After the board, if the board takes action to approve that as well, and at the February meeting, then we'll go ahead and submit this to Caltrans, who will work with FHWA to get this formally approved. And then, as James and I have talked about, the Funding Round Working Group will fill in a lot of the details between the guardrails that you're adopting here today.
Thank you. Before I open up for comment, last opportunity. Anyone else from committee have questions? All right, seeing none, we'll open up for public comment. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
All right. Bring it back to the committee then, and we'll look to see if no further comment, if we have a motion.
Just a real quick comment, if I may, Jill.
Certainly.
And then I'll go ahead and make the motion. I want to thank James and staff for working with us on this, both PCTPA and El Dorado Transportation. This is obviously a hard one for us, but working in partnership, I think we're going to be able to get there. And all of us feel comfortable working in the best interest of the entire region. I very much look forward to our Funding Round Working Group and the very hard work that's going to be done there. So just want to thank James and staff again for their work on this, for their willingness to work with us. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the item.
Soon seconds.
Thank you, Joyner, and then soon for a second. Thank you, Director Joyner. I appreciate those comments. I think it's critical to hear from the two groups, obviously El Dorado County and Placer County, that are probably most concerned. So I appreciate you working with and with James and our team working to get those smoothed out. With that, we will ask for a roll call vote, please.
Director Branscombe,
Yes.
Chapman,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Early for Guerrero is absent. Jennings,
Yes.
Joyner,
Yes.
Lauren,
Aye.
Sander,
Aye.
Vice Chair Desmond is absent. Vice Chair Soon,
Aye.
and Chair Gallardo.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 8 and to the Mode Shift Funding Awards, and Victoria will be presenting.
Yes, thank you, Director Gallardo, and it's a pleasure to be here today. As Director Gallardo mentioned, I am here to present a request that the Transportation Committee recommend that the board approve a funding recommendation of $1,372,000 for projects and programs that will support decreasing vehicle miles traveled and increase mobility. This stems from the board authorizing a call for projects last September. The funding for this program was allocated through the 2020 funding program, and throughout 2020 and 2021, staff hit a bit of pause on all of our transportation demand management programs and efforts, since many of them were geared towards commute trips, which, as many of us remember, kind of came to a screeching halt in 2020. So anyhow, we released a call for projects last September, and staff conducted outreach across all 6 counties through county level transportation staff meetings, one-on-one meetings with interested project sponsors, and drop-in office hours that we held in the month of October. At the end of November, 10 applications were submitted to the Mode Shift program. This included 1 application from California State University, Sacramento, that was later withdrawn due to incompatible schedules. What I mean by incompatible schedules is that Sac State has already started construction on their small project last month. Since you are just now considering a recommendation for funds, they were obviously moving on a quicker schedule than we could meet. The remaining 9 applications were scored by a multidisciplinary panel that has expertise in transit, transportation planning, transportation demand management, transportation equity, active modes, community outreach, and overall mobility needs. The working group included SACOG staff and external partners that had not submitted applications, including City of Rancho Cordova staff, JIBE, which is the Transportation Management Agency from North Natomas, Caltrans Vehicle Mile Travel Reduction Program staff, and Civic Thread, it was formerly Walk Sacramento. In early January, the evaluation panel met following them scoring projects. They discussed the projects in detail and then developed the funding recommendation that you see in attachment B. Following the release of the funding recommendation, staff directly contacted each applicant to know if their project was recommended for funding or not, and offered an opportunity for further discussion about what the evaluation panel had said. So if you're to look at the project in the funding recommendation, you'll see that it does create a diverse set of projects that take different ways of increasing mobility, increasing options for people to take transit, to bike, to walk places, or to explore other mobility options. You'll see that there are several that work to increase familiarity with electric bikes through firsthand experiences. There are also some creative approaches to change how people experience their surroundings and how that impacts their travel choices. There are projects that focus on expanding mobility to underserved populations. And there are also programs that create tailored information that respond to people's needs and personal goals as a way to impact their travel behaviors. 2 of the recommended projects have contingent recommendations that are included as ways to strengthen the project level assessment of whether they are creating the mode shift that they anticipate. So for ACC Rides, on their coordinated shuttle program, they would have additional reporting out that is a subset of the existing passenger information they collect. And for the city of Marysville, we've reached out, it would include increasing the number of bike and ped counts that are part of the project's performance metrics. We've already reached out to staff to establish a borrowing agreement between SACOG and the city of Marysville for them to participate in our Every Roll in Step Counts biking, walking equipment loan program. Briefly, the Every Roll in Step Counts equipment loan program is a free of charge equipment loan that is available to all cities and counties within the SACOG region for them to borrow automated bike ped counts equipments to increase both the quality and the quantity of the information they have about how people are biking and walking in their communities. So with that, I will take any questions on the information before you or seek the recommendation.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Chair Gallardo, I don't see any committee members with their hands raised, but we do have a member of the public who I believe would like to make a public comment. Shall I allow them to talk now?
Thank you. We will open public comment. Thank you.
Jameson Parker, you have your hand raised and we're ready to hear your comment now.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Transportation Committee members. My name is Jameson Parker. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Capital Improvements at the Midtown Association. For those that you don't know us, the Midtown Association is a property-based improvement district with the mission of making Midtown the center for culture, creativity, and vibrancy in Sacramento's urban core. I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank staff for the hard work that they've done on developing the Mode Shift grant, especially the work of Victoria and Nicole. They've been stellar to work with through the application process and really responsive to the many questions that we've had. I also want to thank you for your consideration of our grant request for the Midtown Sacramento Wayfind Mode Shift program as a recipient of the grant. One of our key priorities at our organization is to advocate and promote active and public transportation to reduce single occupancy vehicle trips. Sacramento's Central City is a major regional destination for both business and entertainment, bringing in thousands of travelers from surrounding areas on a daily basis. Through this wayfinding program, it's a culmination of a pilot project that has been using temporary signage and chalk stencils to data collection and employee and visitor information. And now by installing this now permanent wayfinding that inspires exploration. Visitor and residents will be able to find using options like biking, walking, or other micromobility options for the easy choice for all trips. It will be paired with beautiful art wayfinding structures at 13 activity centers with QR codes that link to an online platform to educate and gamify some of our non-car transit. Specifically, the funds from this grant will allow us to uplift the installation with strong communications, extending to surrounding neighborhoods, especially low to moderate income residents through specific communication channels, as well as visitors arriving at our airports and staying at local hotels. Development of this program will serve as a launch pad for future investments and reimagining how we get to and around our city. So I just want to thank you again for your consideration of this project, and we look forward to working with you all.
Thank you for the input. Is there any further public comment?
There's no further public comment.
Thank you. We'll close the public comment. Any comments from the committee?
Vice Chair Soon has his hand raised.
Thank you. Vice Chair Soon.
Thank you, Chair Galdo. I just want to give a quick thanks out also to SACOG staff, Victoria, and everybody on the team. A lot of folks know I've been having e-bike envy from Sacramento and Davis and others in West Sacramento. So I can't wait for us to test this out in our community and see how we can start to begin some mode shift down in Elk Grove as well. With that, I'd be honored to make the motion to approve. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Joyner will second.
Thank you. Would you take a roll call vote, please?
Director Branscombe,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Gog,
Yes.
Early for Guerrero is absent. Jennings,
Yes.
Joyner,
Aye.
Lauren,
Aye.
Sander, Director Sander, if you're still there, could you indicate your vote, please? I'll come back to him. Vice Chair Desmond is absent. Vice Chair Soon,
Aye.
Chair Galdo,
Aye.
and Director Sander, if you're available, could you indicate your vote, please?
Sander is an aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. And I can tell Vice Chair Soon, it is the best purchase I've made, and I know you will have such a great time. And certainly you've got to get the Sonos portable speaker for your basket to go with it. It makes the ride much better.
Keep that in mind.
Okay, well, thank you. We're going to move on to our information items. Our first item is the Regional Transit Network Study, and Lauren is going to be our presenter. And Lauren, I know we ran a little slow on some of our other items, so we'll keep the time in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. I will do. Thank you, Chair Galdo. I believe my counterpart at Jacobs, Seth Torma, will share the screen.
Getting that going right now. Can you see that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair Galdo. Good morning, everyone. With time in mind, again, my name is Lauren Battalius, Senior Program Manager of Innovative Mobility here at SACOG. I'm excited to be here leading this effort, as well as other innovative mobility efforts. I'm joined today by my colleague, Nicole Zeeling-Porter, and Project Manager Seth Torma with Jacobs Engineering. For our new members, I am also new to SACOG, having been here about 5 months now. I'm a Placer County resident, having recently moved to Auburn, and I'm an avid transit rider, so this work is beyond an academic exercise for me. The Regional Transit Network may not be new to some of you, as we have presented to the Transportation Committee in the fall, but for new members, in October 2021, the SACOG board adopted SACOG's Next Generation Transit Strategy that created long-term and short-term strategies for the transit system to meet the current needs of the region. The Regional Transit Network is a first step in that direction. I imagine that as leaders in your communities, you've seen firsthand travel behavior has changed in the last 3 years. This plan incorporates pre-COVID as well as recent recovery data to identify where high capacity transit is needed today. In addition, we have met with operators and planning agencies throughout the region to hear more about what they have noticed and have been incorporating their feedback into our findings. In addition to travel commute patterns changing, as you know, the region itself is changing. The region is growing. There are new activity nodes and centers that were not there just a few years ago, and more are in the works. Last, we know transit services and ridership are necessary to help the region meet its 19% state greenhouse gas reduction target by 2040. Expansion of transit, creating demand for transit, is critical to reduction of emissions in our region. So the agenda for today, we will be going over, Nicole, Seth, and I will be going over what is the Regional Transit Network Study, the study process, the existing conditions, issues, and opportunities, the corridor evaluation process, and next steps. We'll save questions for the end, but if you have a burning question beforehand, please feel free to place it in the chat. So about the study, and again, forgive me if this is a repeat for some of you. As I mentioned earlier, the study arose from a need identified in the 2021 Next Generation Transit Strategy, which identified 3 key findings. Transit trips are considerably slower than comparable vehicle trips. They are on an average 4 to 6 times longer than a comparable vehicle trip. It just does not pencil from a time perspective to take transit longer distances. The regional transit system is not currently meeting the needs of regional travelers. Trips that end in a different county than they originate often cross the service boundaries of transit operators, adding additional travel time delays and in some cases fares. These long trip times overly burden our transit dependent populations and the region's underserved communities, which have higher percentages of transit ridership. The regional transit study is designed to address these needs in a recovery future. It is the very first step in developing and identifying a prioritized list of regional transit corridors for future investment. It is a collaborative effort between SACOG with the region's operators and planning agencies, and is meant to complement existing services. What it is not is a network redesign. Study goals. The goals of this study help us achieve the 3 board-approved goals in SACOG strategic plan: regional equity, environment, and economy. The goals of this project include fast and reliable service, equitable investment, access and connectivity, financial stewardship, and climate smart, which meets or exceeds targets for reduced emissions and vehicle miles traveled. What are the outcomes of the study? The network will eventually feed into the blueprint plan to be finalized in 2025, which you may know as SACOG members' plan to build a connected region that includes transportation options for residents, affordable housing for the region's growing population, and equitable investments that give all community members access to a safe and healthy region. SACOG staff and board are working on the plan that will prepare the region for 2050. The final regional transit network study will show mapping of a network with clearly delineated service types, key service connection needs, near-term capital improvements and planning level costs, long-term capital infrastructure needs, and network prioritization results. Moving on to the process and timeline. So here is our process and timeline. In phase 1, which was summer to fall of 2022, we developed the evaluation framework, which included the vision, goals, objectives, and performance measures that can be used to make decisions. In phase 2, in December, we finalized the list of corridors and conducted a tiered screening of the proposed corridors, which Seth will go over in just a moment. The outcome was a corridor map that constitutes the regional transit network that SACOG has integrated into the blueprint plan. As mentioned, we have worked with Jacobs to use a data-driven approach to identify current recovery travel patterns, activity nodes, and incorporated extensive feedback from operators and planning agencies into this data analysis. Phase 3 is where we are now. The project team prepares regional standards, establishing a common definition of regional high-capacity transit based on SACOG and partner agency input and informed by lessons learned from the peer review. The Regional Transit Network Development Plan will be further refined to identify the preferred model and network connectivity. My colleague Nicole will speak to how we are engaging the public in this phase in just a few slides. Phase 4, the study will be finalized with the elements I mentioned earlier. Now I'll turn it over to Seth for a deeper dive into what we have done so far.
Thanks, Lauren. So what have we done so far? Where we've been is focused on developing the existing and future conditions for the project. To do so, we used over 30 quantifiable performance metrics that are linked to the goals. These metrics help us both to develop a base understanding of existing and future conditions and help us identify opportunities for high capacity transit that have been further validated with context provided by project partners through one-on-one comments. The corridor identification was a data-driven process looking at metrics such as equity factors, existing and future population and employment in the region, land use, and both pre and post-pandemic travel flows and travel characteristics using big data, as well as a variety of other metrics. And again, included informative discussion and was further informed by interviews with our project partners, transit operators, and other key partners.
I think it's back to me. Okay, great. So yes, as mentioned, we have met with project partners. We've met individually multiple times with regional transit operators and planning agencies, which include this word cloud, Placer County Transit, PCTPA, EDCTC, El Dorado Transit, SAC-RT, Yolo County Transportation District, Yuba Sutter Transit, South County Transit, and others. We've also met with jurisdictions who reached out to us in phase 2. If your jurisdiction has not already met with us or would like to meet with us a second time, please do not hesitate to reach out, and we will be reaching out to jurisdiction partners during phase 3 to engage them on the prioritization process. So what we've heard so far, what we discussed included frequency of service versus span, access to high capacity transit for rural areas covering long distances, hybrid working models, changing travel patterns, population growth patterns shifting, current and future development, and opportunities for capital improvements such as managed lanes. We considered cross-county high-capacity routes, local high-capacity routes, and even non-high capacity cross-county service, and identified underserved communities with unmet transit needs, even if high-capacity transit was difficult to access for these communities. And with that, I will turn it back over to Seth.
So the aim of the high capacity transit network is not to replace what services are out there today, but rather build upon them with a network of additional types of transit that allow for fast and convenient transit travel throughout the region. An HCT network layers on top of the existing system centered on high speed and frequent services with limited stop spacing and use of transit priority treatments. Many of the corridors could have all-day service to enable the use of fast and convenient transit for all types of trips. The short, medium, and longer range high-capacity transit networks work together to build a network of different types of HCT services, each focused on serving different types of needs and designed specifically to complement the existing rail and bus transit systems that would offer new and time-competitive transit travel opportunities. The term network is a key feature of the HCT services, a network of services that work together to enable these regional transit travel with key destinations, often with just one transfer. Key connection points would be established to enable easy transfer between rail and bus and other bus routes. The termini for these new services would be in locations that enable all transit operators to be connected and to the HCT network and ensure a strong coordination with the HCT development and their operations. So looking at each of these layers and how they work together, the existing network, which you can be seen here in gray, served as our starting point to understand the opportunities and constraints of today's transit system and build off of them in designing the HCT network. We considered both transit operators and intercity rail like ACE, Valley Link, and Capital Corridor to establish the base transit network. Recognizing that the SACOG region is a large region and have many residents are traveling long distances. For many of their daily trips, a set of long distance HCT corridors shown in blue were created to specifically serve and facilitate these longer distances. This network enables people to travel between any two counties in the region with just one transfer and connects the hubs of all these regions' transit operators with the rest of the region. These HCT corridors shown here would primarily operate along freeway and highway corridors to ensure high-speed travel with transit priority measures to bypass congested areas. Coordination with Caltrans would explore opportunities for incorporating freeway transit travel with the plan managed lane system that may enable multimodal facility improvements. Would also break down some of the county line barriers that may be present today. Complementing the long distance HCT corridors, a series of medium distance HCT corridors is also identified, shown here in orange, and serves these medium trip making distances along key arterials. The medium HCT corridors are centered around limited stop spacing and use transit priority measures aimed at bypassing congested areas along the arterials and attaining travel speeds similar to light rail. Station amenities, service frequencies, and vehicle comfort would also be similar to light rail. And the various draft corridors would connect high transit potential areas, providing access to key job centers, education, healthcare, logistical hubs, retail, and other areas where high transit trips have potential. Some routes may be cross counties and others may be operating within a single county. And then finally, the final HCT corridor type is shown here in the lighter pink area, pink color, which would focus on enhancing local services along some of the region's highest transit opportunity corridors, meaning areas of high population and or job density, equity factors, and transit supportive land uses, where short distance trip making can be enhanced through increased service frequency and use of transit priority measures. The three draft corridor types, long, medium, and short, will be interconnected through a number of key regional connection locations shown here in the circles that you see on the screen. These new key connection points would have a number of passenger station amenities aimed at creating safe, attractive environments for transferring from one route to another, and provide enhanced opportunities for first and last mile services like bicycle, pedestrian, and micromobility connections aimed at expanding the access of the transit network to the region's key destinations. Here are some of the current tasks that we've been working on. I'll hand it over to Nicole to go through the public outreach.
Thanks, Seth. Hi, everyone. As our team has shared, this study is a data-driven process, but we know that data only tells part of the story. So in addition to collaboration with our project partners, we will look to our region's communities to provide local context and feedback to help inform the regional transit network. You can see the bulk of these activities take place in phase 3, which we're in now. Next slide, Seth. Thank you. So this quarter, we will begin to hold project-focused outreach efforts, and our planned strategies include 6 in-person pop-up workshops, 1 in each of our counties, an online mapping tool where participants can provide feedback from their mobile device, laptop, or tablet. It will be similar in format to the more recent Regional Trails Network mapping tool, which launched a little over a year ago. And we'll also hold 2 virtual workshops through Zoom for community members to join from wherever they are. We intend to reach out to community-based organizations who work in the transportation, mobility, equity, and health sectors, in addition to groups working with older adults and youth, to ensure that we're hearing from our diverse communities as well as disadvantaged communities. And it's also important to note that SACOG as an agency has been leading other outreach efforts for separate projects, including the blueprint and unmet transit needs, which you heard about earlier this morning. And our team plans to leverage those efforts by learning from the feedback that they've gathered, focused around community members' transportation needs, interests, and priorities. And ultimately, all of the feedback that we collect will help inform the technical work and corridor prioritization, which Lauren will be discussing next.
Thank you. And I do know we have to wrap up soon, so I will go through this fairly quickly. Prioritization process, and that's phase 3, that's where we are now. As we've mentioned, it involves a data-driven analysis using metrics like population and jobs served, equity measures, and other metrics we've developed, informed by public engagement and engagement with partner jurisdictions, operators, and planning agencies. Again, if you would like to be engaged or connect us with your staff, please do not hesitate to reach out and we will schedule a one-on-one. It's critical for the process. So what's next for the study? Wrapping up phase 1 and 2, and now we're entered into phase 3 as we're undergoing the prioritization process, and then we will complete the study this summer. And with that, here's the contact info for the project team. It has been great to meet all of you today, and do not hesitate to reach out anytime.
Thank you. Great presentation. I appreciate the detail. And I will go to the committee. Any questions from the committee?
Aldo, I don't see any hands raised from committee members.
I have a question, or actually a comment. It's really a compliment. First of all, I'm sorry, may I proceed?
Please.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to compliment Lauren, Seth, and Nicole. That was a first-class presentation. Easy to, complicated yet easy to understand. And a real compliment on the undertaking and respect for the undertaking they have here. Optimizing within an existing environment and planning for the evolutions. In my experience on this transportation committee, I've learned more than I ever thought I'd know about mass transit, and this is quite an undertaking, and it looks like a terrific team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Vice Chair Soon has his hand raised.
Thank you, Vice Chair Soon.
Thank you, Chair Gallardo. I want to echo some of Director Bransom's comments in complimenting the team here. But I just want to just say I'm pleased to see this continuing to develop. As a commuter myself, I can't wait for us to better connect our region. I think it'll bring us closer economically and socially, and then obviously from air quality perspective, and making it easier for folks to travel. Looking forward to see this finalized and implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands raised?
Madam Chair, I don't know how to raise a hand.
Okay,
Calling
good,
from
because
my
I can't
phone.
see any, but we're doing great. Yeah, go ahead.
This is a really interesting effort. And of course, the crux of the analysis here is based on the data, and hopefully the best data that SACOG has available. Some of the data we used to enjoy looking at quite a bit showed a lot of origin and destination information as to where people lived and where they were going. And my jurisdiction, Rancho Cordova, is home to, after downtown, the second largest concentration of jobs that people are going to. The question is does the data here reflect that with origin and destination data? Director Soon was just speaking. We have tens of thousands of people, I think, who are trying to get from his destination to mine every day. But as I looked at sort of the layout of this plan, I'm not sure there's much assistance for that effort, because in my jurisdiction, while we have light rail running from one end of the city to the other, it does not connect with our job center. And so in essence, virtually no one in our job center is using mass transit to get to work. And so I'm curious about those challenges with respect to this effort.
Yeah, that's a great comment. As somebody that commuted from Rockland to Elk Grove every day through 65, 80, 99, there were no connectors. I could do large portions of the trip, but then I couldn't get to my workplace. So great question.
Seth, did you want to take the question on origin and destination data?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, one of the key data inputs that we've used here are origin and destination information using big data that SACOG has purchased, both pre and post pandemic, understanding that travel patterns have changed over time. And we wanted to understand how they've changed and address both, again, historic origins and destination travel patterns, as well as how those are changing with respect to the post-pandemic environment that we're in. So that data, among other really state-of-the-art data that really is developed through best practices of similar regionally based studies across the United States and elsewhere, were used. So the very best data available to the team. And we're happy to have had access to that kind of data that SACOG had purchased. So, and it's definitely informed the study. Lauren, I didn't know if you maybe wanted to talk about the look at the proposed network and illustrate there are services along each of those corridors that I think you'd see are serving some of those key destinations in Rancho Cordova. And so I think the network, based on that data analysis, identified some key opportunities for high capacity transit that would serve some of those key activity centers and key job centers.
Thank you, Seth. And, as I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to, we can schedule a follow-up and do a deeper dive in Rancho Cordova as well, if you're interested.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That would probably be a good idea. From what I just saw on the slide, there's a single node in Rancho Cordova. So I'm not exactly sure what that is attempting to accomplish, but I'd like to know more about it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Director Sander. Any other questions?
This is Lynette. I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Thank you. I know it's not an action item. Is there any public comment on this item?
I see no public comment.
Great. Well, thank you. I think we're all looking forward to getting into the details as we get closer. I appreciate the information and thank you. And for that, we will move on then to item number 10, which is our Caltrans SACOG Member of Understanding, and Christina Svensk is going to be our presenter.
Thank you. Yep, I'll just do a quick update on this. In 2022, SACOG and Caltrans started some discussions about ways we could improve partnerships on some key initiatives and ensuring that we're working towards common goals and desired outcomes. The first opportunity that we identified was with a comprehensive multimodal corridor plan, or CMCP. These are really important plans for the region and the state. They're needed in order to access certain funding called Solutions for Congested Corridor Funding, which is part of the SB1 program. Currently, US 50 is the only corridor left in our region without a current CMCP, and as a result, jurisdictions along the corridor aren't eligible for this important funding source. The current plan right now, or process, is to seek a Caltrans planning grant to develop this plan for the US 50 corridor with SACOG as the lead. And this would run from El Dorado County down to the Yolo County line. So we've already been engaging with our partners up at EDCTC, as well as Sac County and STA to talk about partnerships and how we can move forward with this study and make sure that we're really thinking about this comprehensively. So to guide this upcoming work, Caltrans and SACOG initiated the development of an MOU that outlines the partnership and is really specific to the US 50 work. This was modeled after a few recent examples. First, there's a partnership between Caltrans and our partners at PCTPA for the I-80 corridor through the Placer-Sacramento Gateway Plan, as well as arrangements that exist between SANDAG and Caltrans District 11 down in the San Diego region. So we wanted to kind of take what we saw as successes with those and try to employ that for the US 50 corridor as well. The MOU provides details on roles, responsibilities, and expectations for each agency. So as I mentioned, this MOU that we're discussing today is specific to the US 50 corridor, and there's the intention to do similar agreements as future corridor needs arise. It is currently in legal review at Caltrans. So far, it's been staff to staff work developing it, as well as input from our legal counsel at SACOG. And so once that review is done, it'll come back to SACOG for signature in the coming weeks. So I really want to express a huge thank you to Sue Tucker from Caltrans for working with me on this. It's been a really great conversation and a great way to kind of look forward. And so we're really excited about this partnership and working with Sue and the rest of the Caltrans team on this, specifically the US 50 CMCP, but also future work as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Thank you. Any questions for Christina on this item? Oh, I think you're off.
Questions.
All right, you're off the hook. Thank you very much. And we'll move back to Eric once again, and this is for the transit representation in the Metropolitan Planning Organization structure.
Thanks. So this is an information item before this committee, but the Policy and Innovation Committee will be taking an action on this. And for our newer members, I just wanted to explain this a little bit because it's a unique requirement. So under federal law, metropolitan planning organizations like SACOG are supposed to represent various interests. One of them that's specifically called out is transit agencies. However, SACOG as a joint powers authority has fixed the membership of SACOG to be city and county elected officials appointed from each of your jurisdictions. And so the way that we comply with this is adopting every year a resolution stating that many of you who also are appointed by your jurisdictions to sit on transit agency boards, when you're at SACOG, part of your responsibilities are thinking about that hat that you wear as a transit agency board representative, as well as the local jurisdiction representative. So it's an administrative thing, but I think it's an important thing to just highlight that policy role and kind of balancing the transit interests. The one ask I'll have, if you perhaps have been recently appointed to a transit agency board, we've got information on our website where we share with the public who on our board is also on boards, but we know many of you are very new to SACOG. So if things are changing and you maybe were on a transit board and you're not, or vice versa, if you could just let Lynette know, we'll make sure we make that information available for anybody who wants to know that. So happy to take any questions, but just wanted to bring this up for your information.
Yeah, excellent point. I appreciate you doing that. Any questions from anyone on the committee? I know we have a couple folks that do double duty.
Chair Gallardo, I'm not seeing any comments from committee members.
Okay. All right. I think most of them are probably aware and you know where to get the resources if you're not. So thank you very much. Thank you, Eric. Other than that, folks, I'm excited. We got a great team on the Transportation Committee this year. So I really appreciate your time and being here. And with that, we are going to be
Aldo, do you want to just do other matters real quick?
Excuse me. Yeah, the only other matter that I think I have on here is that our next meeting, and it'll be on Thursday, March the 2nd, same time, same place. We are virtual, and
I think your staffer has a
yeah. Director Gallardo, I wanted to just make one quick announcement. Sorry about that. I just want to congratulate the folks up in Yuba County, as well as the city of West Sacramento, for receiving the Safe Streets for All grant awards. Those are really, really important. It's a new funding source, and it's going to move forward some action plans focused on safety in those communities. So I just want to give a big congratulations to you. It's really awesome, and we look forward to working with you on those and supporting those efforts. So congratulations.
thank you. That is fabulous. I will look forward to when this happens, and we'll get to do one of our remote visits, hopefully. So, thank you. Anything else? Any other good items for the order here?
If you are all able, starting at noon online, we have a race equity inclusion refresher, both for new, an intro for new board members, a refresher for returning board members. So join us for that. Per my executive director update that was sent out yesterday afternoon, we've also landed on a date for the regional convening on the blueprint, which will be June 16th, so Friday, June 16th. And then stay tuned on this, but we just want to make sure that you saw, we will not do a pre-cap to cap tour this year. I encourage you to go to cap to cap, but you don't need to go Thursday. There's no pre-tour this year. We are working on 3 offsite board meetings. We want to start to rotate around the region. And I'm giving you those dates. We don't have locations yet. We're working on them. But our thought was we could do 3 offsites in 3 different counties this year and do the 3 other counties next year. And continue to build on, I think, of the sort of the, regional understanding and getting outside of downtown and getting to each one of your counties and your jurisdictions. And then there will be a tour after, the tour we'll do this year will be after the October board meeting. More to come on that, but just want to make sure you saw it on your calendar so you could schedule accordingly.
Thank you. I think that helps for planning greatly. And I love the idea of us getting out to our various jurisdictions. I appreciate our chair doing that already to get out and kind of know who we are. So thank you very much. If nothing else, I will look forward to seeing, we'll see you all at our directors meeting, but we'll all get to communicate again with this team on the 2nd of March. Thank you so much, and we are adjourned.
Hey, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You did an incredible job today of running the Transportation Committee, and I love your energy. And so it's contagious, and I just want to let you know you did a great job.
Hey, thank you so much, because you are one tough act to follow on the energy level.
Amen to that.
I love it. That's why we're here, right? Let's do this. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.